Hello everyone. If you remember last lecture, we said that we will have a series of sessions talking about nouns, verbs, and adjectives in English. And we talked about nouns and its types in English. So today in our lecture, we will complete our series and talk about the verbs and its types in English. مرحبا جميعا. إذا تذكرون بالمحاضرة السابقة قلنا إنه راح يكون عندنا سلسلة نحكي بيها عن الأسماء والأفعال والصفات باللغة الإنجليزية، وحكينا عن الأسماء وأنواعها باللغة الإنجليزية. فاليوم راح نكمل سلسلتنا وراح نحكي عن الأفعال وأنواعها باللغة الإنجليزية. So let's start our lecture. To start our lecture, first we should define a verb. So what is a verb? A verb is a word such as jump, think, happen, or exist that is usually one of the main parts of a sentence and that expresses or describes an action, an occurrence, or a state of being. So الفعل هو كلمة مثل قفز، فكر، حدث أو وجد، تكون عادة أحد الأجزاء الرئيسية في الجملة والتي تعبر أو توصف إجراء أو حدث أو حالة من الوجود. We have several types of verbs such as action verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliaries, modal verbs, regular verbs, irregular verbs, stative verbs, and phrasal verbs. We will start by explaining action verbs. Action verbs. Action verbs express physical or mental action done by someone or something. الأكشن فيربس شنو هي؟ تعبر عن فعل عقلي أو جسدي قام به شخص ما أو شيء ما. Examples عندنا read, run, play, work, etc. We play football. Play here is a physical action. نحن لعبنا كرة قدم. So لعب كرة القدم أو اللعب هو فعل جسدي. I read newspaper daily. Read is mental action. أنا أقرأ الجريدة يوميا. So القراءة هي هنا شنو؟ فعل عقلي. Action verbs are two types. They are transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. عندنا نوعين من الأكشن verbs. عندنا transitive verbs وعندنا intransitive verbs. We will explain each one separately. راح نشرح كل واحد منهم على حدة. Transitive verbs. Transitive verbs شنو هي؟ When action verbs have a noun or pronoun as object to receive action, those verbs are called transitive verbs. Transitive verbs شنو؟ Transitive verbs هي action verbs ويكون عندها object، يكون عندها مفعول به اللي هو يكون أما اسم أو ضمير. To receive an action حتى نستلم الفعل. Those verbs are called transitive verbs. عندنا example she taught no object ما عندنا مفعول به. She taught English. Here we have object which is noun. هنا عندنا مفعول به واللي هو اسم. Intransitive verb. Intransitive verb, when action verbs don't have object to receive action, those verbs are called intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs هي عكس transitive verbs. هي ما عندها object، ما عندها مفعول به. The baby smiled. It doesn't have object. ما عندها object. Auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are known as helping verbs, which are used as main verbs also. Auxiliary verbs هي شنو؟ هي أفعال مساعدة وممكن تستخدم كأفعال رئيسية. Be form verbs, have form verbs, and do form verbs are called auxiliary verbs. عندنا أنواع من الauxiliary verbs اللي هي be والhave والdo. Auxiliary be am, is, was, were, be, being, been. This is the examples of auxiliary be. She is a teacher. Here is a main verb. هنا is هو فعل رئيسي. She is teaching English. هنا is auxiliary verb. هو فعل مساعد. is here is auxiliary verb. Auxiliary have. For example, have, has, and had. I have a car. Have here is main verb. هنا الهاف بهاي الجملة هو فعل رئيسي. I have bought a new car. هنا الفعل have هو auxiliary verb. هو فعل مساعد. Have here is an auxiliary verb for the main verb bought. Auxiliary do, like do, does, did. I do homework. Here do is main verb. Do هنا هو فعل رئيسي. Do you know English? Do here an auxiliary verb. Do هنا هو فعل مساعد. Modal auxiliaries. Modal verbs are called modal auxiliaries. Modal auxiliaries express abilities, possibilities, permissions, requests, obligations, and offers. المودال verbs شنو هي؟ تعبر عن القدرات، عن الاحتماليات، عن الإذونات، عن الطلبات سوري عن الطلبات، عن الالتزامات وعن العروض. Example can, could, may, might, will, shall, should, etc. I can speak English fluently. This sentence expresses the ability. أنا أقدر أن أتكلم اللغة الإنجليزية بطلاقة. فهي بده يعبر عن قدرته بتكلم اللغة الإنجليزية بطلاقة. It might rain today. It's express possibility. إنه هي ممكن تمطر اليوم. فهي هاي احتمالية. هي هنا مدى تمطر بس ممكن إنه تمطر. ممكن يكون أكو غيوم. ممكن يكون يعني الجو إنه يساعد إنه تكون عندنا احتمالية إنه راح تمطر اليوم. May I come in? This is express the permission. ممكن أن أدخل فأنت بدك تاخذ إذن حتى تدخل. Would you help me? This is express request. ممكن تساعدني فهذا هو الطلب. أنت بدك تطلب المساعدة. Children should obey their parents. This is obligation. الأطفال لازم يطيعون أهلهم. هذا إلزامي. I will prepare breakfast for you. This is offer. هنا I will prepare breakfast for you هو لا طلب ولا ability ولا أي شيء ولا obligation. هو عرض. أنت بدك تعرض هذا الشيء. So أنت ما ملزم ولا مجبر ولا أحد طالب منك. أنت بدك تعرض هذا الشيء. We have regular verbs and irregular verbs. Regular verb by adding suffix d, ed, or ied with present tense. Regular verbs, past and past participle forms are formed. Regular verbs أو الأفعال المنتظمة إحنا شنو نضيف؟ نضيف المقاطع دي أو ed أو ied للpresent tense للفعل المضارع حتى نكون فعل ماضي وتصريف ثالث للفعل. دي نخليه بالأفعال اللي تكون نهايتها إي فنخليه بس دي. والأفعال اللي بتكون نهايتها إي أو نهايتها أي حرف من الحروف في اللغة الإنجليزية فنخليه إي دي. والآي إي دي نخليها بالأفعال اللي تكون نهايتها واي. نقلب الواي إلى آي ونضيف آي إي دي. ونضيف إي دي. Present tense, past tense, and past participle. We have die. Die here is ends with e, so we'll put only d. Died in the past tense, and in the past participle it will be also died. Work here it's ends with k, so we will put ed. So it will be worked in the past tense and worked in the past participle. Study here is ends with y, so we will change the y by I and we will put ed. So it will be studied in the past tense and studied in the past participle. Irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are three types. عندنا الثلاث أنواع من الأفعال الغير منتظمة. All the three forms different: past, present, and past participle. عندنا كل الأنواع ثلاثة اللي هي المضارع والماضي والتصريف الثالث يكونون مختلفين. هاي الحالة الأولى. Second, any two forms are same and one is different. أي اثنين هم متشابهين واحد منهم بس يكون مختلف. Third one is all the forms are the same. كل الفورم اللي هي present past and past participle يكونون نفس الشيء. So example for the first one is write, wrote, written. So all the three forms are different. And for example, for the second one is any two forms are same and one is different. So come, came, come. So here present tense and past participle are the same and past tense is different. The third one, all the forms are the same, like put. Put in the present tense is the same as past in the past tense and the same in past participle. Stative verbs. Stative verbs express state rather than action. They are not used in continuous form. الستيتيف verbs هي تعبر عن الحالة بدلا من الفعل. هي عكس الأكشن verbs. It's the opposite of action verbs. وهي أبد ما نقدر نستخدمها بحالة ال continuous form. Stative verbs are related to senses, feelings, thoughts, and measurements. الstative verbs نقدر هي تعبر عن الأحاسيس، المشاعر والأفكار والقياسات. Example: smell, love, believe, recognize, weigh, etc. I love music. ما نقدر نقول I am loving music. They are not used in continuous way or continuous form. ما نقدر نستخدمهم بحالة المستمر. I don't believe her. We can't say I'm not believing her. Phrasal verbs, a main verb with combination of an adverb or preposition or both is called phrasal verbs. الفريزر verb شنو؟ الفريزر verb هو عبارة عن combination من الظرف والفعل مع ظرف أو مع حرف جر أو مع كلاهما حتى نكون الفريزر verb. Example with the phrasal verb he give up smoking. So it's a combination. Here, gave up is a combination. So we will review what we take today. We have several types of verbs such as action verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliaries or modal verbs, regular verbs, irregular verbs, stative verbs, phrasal verbs. Action verbs we say that express physical or mental action done by someone or something. It has two types, transitive verb and intransitive verb. Transitive verb, we say that it has an object, and intransitive verbs, it doesn't have an object. Auxiliary verb are known as helping verb, and it's using as the main verb. Modal auxiliaries is called modal verbs. It's express abilities, possibilities, permissions, requests, obligations, and offers. Regular verbs, we say we can make a verb regular by adding the suffix d, ed, or ied with the present tense. Past and past participles are formed. Irregular verbs, we say that we have three types, all the three forms different. Any two forms are the same and one is different. All the forms are same. Stative verbs, we have stative verbs express state rather than action. They are not used in continuous form. Phrasal verbs, we say that it's a combination of an adverb or preposition or both, and it's called phrasal verb. Thank you for attending and listening, and I hope you get benefit from this lecture. شكرا لاستماعكم ولحضوركم. أتمنى أنكم استفادتوا من هاي المحاضرة.